Hello there and welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools, and I hope you are enjoying the latest training series from this channel, which is on Power BI, and the link to that training series can be found in the description. Now today, because I absolutely love Excel, I wanted to do a video where we explore other ways to combine data from multiple sheets, to filter it and then summarize it without using tables, Power Query, pivot tables, Power Pivot, or even Visual Basic. I wanted to use the functions we all have available to us today in Excel 365. Let's do this. Okay, the gauntlet has been thrown down. How do we combine data, summarize it dynamically without using Power Query, Power Pivot, etc. But just using functions that we all have available to us today. So I've got sales here for January, February, March here. So, and in there we've got the salesperson, we've got the year, we've got the month, we've got the product that's been sold, the number of units that have been sold, the cost of making those units, what the sales are, and the profit. So that's the data elements, and I've got that from January through to March. So how do I consolidate this into a single data set first? So I want to consolidate it into a single data set. I then want to be able to summarize it by salesperson, and also I want a dynamic chart on there as well based on the sales by month for that particular salesperson. So I'm going to create two sheets. One's going to be called, I'm going to call this summary. So this is where my summarized data is. This is where the data set's going to be, the single data set and the summarized view of that information. I'm also going to create another sheet. I'm going to rename this to be my support sheet, which eventually I will hide. And this is where I'm going to do all my calculations and things that I need to support the summary sheet. So first task is to get these into the summary sheet in one single data set. So I'm going to select March there. I'm just going to take the headings. I'm going to do Control Copy. And then I'm going to paste those here. So I've got the headings. Just make that a bit bigger, like so. And then I'm going to use the first function I'm going to use to consolidate these data sets is the VSTACK. So as long as the data sets are the same structure, then this will work. So I'm going to do equals VSTACK. There's VSTACK from the drop down. And the array is going to be from January to March. So I'm going to hold down my shift button and select March there. So I'll highlight these three tabs, and then going to select this range here, and then I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. So let's go to 30 rows, and I'm going to close that VSTACK and I'm going to hit return. So the first thing that you'll notice, well, it's brought everything through, but I've then got the zeros there for those additional rows where there's no data in. Yeah, and also you'll notice it's not formatted the columns, so VSTACK won't format the columns. So what I'll do here is if I take this column here, I'm going to do Control 1, and I'm going to select number, and I want that to have separators for the thousands, and I'm going to get rid of the decimal places and click OK. So I've got that there, and then these three columns, which are going to be currency, I'm going to select them, and on the home ribbon, change that to currency like so. Done. So now I need to get rid of these zeros. So if I go to where the actual formula is, this is the spill range, or the array that's spilling out in A2, is I want to do something with that. So let me just expand the formula bar here. And as you know, I like the let function, so I'm going to use the let function so I don't have to keep on writing this formula out here. So I'm going to do let, open bracket, I'm going to do alt return for a new row. And the first name that I'm going to create here is going to be my data, and do comma. I'm going to assign this VSTACK array to my data. Then I'm going to hit comma and do alt return. And then I'm going to do my calculation. And my calculation is going to be a filter. I'm going to use the filter function. My array is going to be my data. You see it appearing there. And when you allocate names in the let function, it only applies to that particular formula that we're doing now. And I want to include, I'm going to use CHOOSECOLS. My array is going to be my data again. And I can choose column 1. I can choose any of these columns, but I'm just going to choose column 1. I'm going to do that close bracket, and the criteria is going to be does not equal 0. Yeah. And then if empty, I'm just going to put something in to say like no data found, just as a, and I'm going to close that filter function, and I'm going to do alt return, and I'm going to close the let function, and let's see what that does. And there you go. So all the zeros have now gone. Now, if you add the following month, there is a problem here, and that I'm foreseeing here. So if I unhide the next month, so it's the simulation of the next set of data coming into your sheet. So I'm just going to right click here and do unhide. Now this sheet, with all the sheets available, the data available, can be found in the description and link to that file. It's free. You can grab it if you want to follow along. And I'm just going to do unhide, and I'm going to unhide April the next month and click OK. So if I put April over to here and I look at my summary, April doesn't add automatically. I'm going to have to go into here and adjust this formula here on my data to include April. There's a little cheat that we can do here to make this more dynamic as we add new data to this data set. Is I'm going to do a new sheet, and I'm going to add another sheet. I'm going to call this one, rename it, I'm going to call it start. And I'm going to right click on it and change the tab color to be green. And then I'm going to change this one here. I'm going to rename it and call this finish. And I'm just going to give the tab color red there. So green for go and red for stop. If I put the start in front of January and I put the finish after March, if I then go to my summary, what I'm going to do is just change this formula here. So change this first bit. Yeah. And I'm going to do start, colon, finish, and hit return. Now, when I move April, so we've got March there. If I move April to the left of finish, back to my summary, there we go. So that's now added that data automatically. Wonderful. Right. So that's success. Let's just put an underline here, just to add a bit of a formatting. I'm going to make this bold, and I'm going to put a thick underscore there. I'm going to make this, so right click on the header, do column width, I'm going to make that 10. I think it's always good practice to make everything the same as where you can and make it consistent. And again, I'm going to select all the cost columns and do right click on that, do column width, and I'm going to make those 15 like so. And then with these, I'm just going to make them right aligned. Okay, that's better. Okay, now if I then I want to, let me just shrink that down a little bit. So I want salesperson here. So I want to be able to put a salesperson and do a drop down based on the salespeople that are in here, and then summarize the data. And I want to get a chart here as well. And I want some totals here as well. So what I'm going to do here then is let's salesperson there. Make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to give it that font just from these styles up here. And then this one, I'm just going to make you an input like so. And I want this to be a drop down. So somehow I need to get a dynamic unique list sorted of our salespeople to be allocated this drop down. So this is where my support sheet comes into use. So the first thing is sales, I'll give it header, person, drop down. Okay. And what I want is a unique list of the salespeople here. So if I use the unique function and do equals unique, now I only want to do the unique, no, not unique character, unique, and I only want to do the unique function on the first column. Yeah, so I'm going to do CHOOSECOLS. Yeah, the array is going to be A2, and I'm going to do hash to include the whole of the spill range, and then I'm going to choose column 1 like so. Yeah, and then I'm going to close the bracket on the unique and hit return. So now I've got a unique listing from this using that unique and combine it with the choose column. I'm just going to wrap this in a sort. Defaults to ascending. There you go. So I've now got a sort. I've got a unique drop down of all my salespeople. And now within this here, I'm going to select this cell L1. I'm going to go to data validation. I'm going to choose a list, and then I'm going to point it to this cell here, and again do hash at the end to include all the spill range, and then hit return and then click OK. And now I've got all the salespeople, so I'm going to select Andy. So far so good. Let me just make that center aligned. Boom. So we now have the ability to select our salespeople. So the next thing I need to do now is I need to create a summary based on Andy of this information, but I also want a total as well of the units sold, the costs and the sales and the profit. So I'll go to my support sheet and let's create this, my summary data. So let's do it here. So I'm going to do one more row, and this is where I'm going to do it. So what I want is a filtered summary of this information here. Yeah. So I'm going to put it here because I'm going to start it. So let's do equals filter. So the array that I'm going to filter is going to be this, yeah, hash, and then I'm going to do comma. I'm then going to filter it by this column here. So if I then do choose column again, CHOOSECOLS, and the array is going to be that hash, and it's going to be column 1, where it equals that cell there. And again, if it doesn't find anything, say no data found, which is highly unlikely because otherwise this wouldn't exist without this. So in fact, I'm going to get rid of that because I'm going to close that bracket and I'm going to hit return. So I've now got their data, but I want some totals here. So at the top of this, I'm going to do totals, like so. I'm going to do a space bar, just put a space in that cell. I'm going to put a space in that cell, and I'm going to put a space in that cell, and then I'm going to do my first sum. So it's going to be equals sum, and I'm going to do CHOOSECOLS again, because I want to sum this column here. Okay, so the array is going to be there, and again, let me just move this out of the way so you can see, and I'm going to do hash, and then I want to do comma, and the column I want to sum is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So column 5, close that bracket, and close the bracket on the sum. Yeah, and then what I'm going to do here as well is I'm just going to make this here absolute, because I don't want it moving, because I want to copy it across to the right. So if I just then check to make sure that's right, so if I highlight those, and you can see down here, yeah, 1577, 1577, wonderful. I don't need to worry about the formatting in here. And if I copy it across, and then all I've got to do is change that to column 6, which is the next column along, return, change this to column 7, change this to column 8. Okay, so I've got all the totals, but this doesn't look particularly good. So the next thing I want to do is I want to be able to, when I filter it and put it into here and use this information and put it into my summary, I want to order it by these months and then the total to be at the bottom. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So I need to give this some type of sequence. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to do equals sequence, not search, sequence. And again, I'm going to do CHOOSECOLS. In fact, what I want to do first of all is I'm doing a count A, open bracket, and then I'm doing CHOOSECOLS because I want to count, because if I do it on just the spill, it's going to count everything in here, and I don't want that. I only want to count any cell using the COUNTA function, any cell in this column that's got text in. Yeah, so my array is going to be, again, this E4 here. So if I do E4 hash, column's going to be 1. And if I close that bracket on the choose columns, then close it on the COUNTA, and then close it on the sequence and hit return, what it's done, it's counted how many of these and in this row, so there's 4, and then it's done a sequence from 1 to 4 there. And then to get the totals piece here, all I've got to do is do equals max, and again I'm going to do choose. Keep hitting choose too quickly. CHOOSECOLS. The array this time is going to be on my sequence here, which is again a spill range. So that's going to be, and do hash. And if I then do, in fact, I don't need, I just need it on the, right, I'm making this too complicated. Max on that and do hash to include the whole spill range. And if I close that bracket, it should give me 4. Yeah. So I want the next one in the sequence. So all I'm going to do is max that range plus 1 gives me the sequence. Wonderful. So I now have my summarized information here. So let's take this now and let's put it in here. And the way that we're going to do it is we are going to, again, I'm going to take these headings here and do Control Copy. And I'm going to Control V. That's great. And again, I'm going to make that column width. Let's make that 10. Do Control 1 because it's going to be a number and it's going to have comma separators, and I'm going to get rid of the decimal places because remember these arrays and these array formulas, dynamic array formulas, don't do the formatting. And again, these, I'm going to right click on the heading, column width, let's make these 15 and make sure that they are currency like so. Okay, so if I then do equals sort, and the array, as you can tell, I'm very much thinking this through. So it's warts and all you're getting here. So I want all of this, and then I'm just going to make it to row 5000, like so, just to make sure that I include any expanse in data. Yeah. And if I hit return, so it's sorted everything, but now I've got all these zeros here. So what I'm now going to do is I need to clean this data up. And again, I'm going to use the let function to clean this data up. Because what I want to do is, now that I've got my, in the order, I want to get rid of these zeros. I also want to get rid of this sequence. So this all moves over to the left. So I've got Andy, and I've got these all in the correct column. I've got the columns that I want. So the way that I'm going to do that again is if I click in the formula bar, I'm going to expand this so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do let, open bracket, alt, return. So the first, this data set, I'm going to call this my data 1 and do comma. All right. And then I am then going to do the next piece where I want to get rid of this column here. So I'm going to do alt return, and this is going to be my data 2. I'm going to do comma, and I'm going to do filter, and the array is going to be my data 1. It appears in the drop down, so I'll select that. And what I'm going to include is what I want to do is I'm going to use zeros and ones. So if it's a 0, exclude the column. 1 is going to include a column. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns here. So I'm going to exclude the first one and include the rest, which is 8. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a curly open bracket, 0 to exclude the first column. I'm then going to do a comma, and then I'm going to do 8 ones to include the rest of the column. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to close this, the curly bracket on that, and then I'm going to close the bracket on the filter function. So what I'm telling it to do is this data set, which is my data 1, and I'm going to exclude this column, but then I'm going to include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to include these columns. So 1 means include that column. So I'm going to do a comma, and now let's output it, which is the final filter where I'll get rid of these zeros. Yeah, so I'll put a comma, alt return, and then I'm going to do filter. The array that I'm going to filter is my data 2. And I'm going to do CHOOSECOLS, which is my data 2 again, comma 1. So the first, I'm doing the test on the first column where it does not equal 0. And we're going to close the bracket on the filter. I'm going to do alt return and close the bracket on the let function. And then let's see what that does for us. And there you go. So this looks great. So what I'm going to do now, so if I change this to Fred, yeah, so everything's changing dynamically. Wonderful. So the next thing I want to do now is I'm just going to put a little conditional formatting, because I want to make sure the totals row stands out. So what I'm going to do, so at the moment my range starts at K4. Now whenever you're doing conditional formatting, you can make it absolute or relative. What I want each of these cells to do is to look at column K and say, if it equals totals, then I want it to do some formatting in the row. And the way that I'm going to do that is if I just select this area, so it's K4 is where it starts. If I do conditional formatting on the home ribbon, do new rule, and I'm going to use a formula to determine which cells to format. So I'm going to do equals if K4, so I want to make the column absolute because I want each cell here to be always checking column K for totals. That's my trigger. So I'm going to go do a $sign to make the column absolute and do K, and then 4 is going to be relative. So as it's looking, it's always going to be looking relative where the check's doing. So here it'll be looking at row, column 4, so row 4, row 5, etc. Okay. Now, if that equals totals, and I've put it in, my typing is terrible today, totals, and put that in double quotation marks. If it equals totals, then true, i.e. do something, or false, which means you do nothing. As far as the format is concerned, I'm going to make it look similar to this up here. So I'm going to do format. The font, I'm going to make it bold italic, and let's make it this color here. As far as the border is concerned, I just want the top and the bottom. And as far as the fill, I'm just going to make it this light grey here and fill it and do OK, and then click OK. And now you can see it's now changed it. So let's try adding another month. So I'm going to right click on summary, do unhide, and I'm going to select May, click OK. So there's May. Drag May in, go to my summary. Now the reason why that hasn't picked it up is, you think about it, it's added another row. So what I need to do here on my conditional formatting is I'm going to do manage rules. Now all I'm going to do is on this one, I'm going to apply this rule from K4 to R1000, yeah, and click apply and OK. So now I've got it to go beyond this. So if I then do unhide, and let's add June and drag June in, and just a summary, it now picks it up fine. Wonderful. So the last thing that I want to be able to do here is I want a dynamic chart on the side here. Yeah. So how do we do that? Because I want it to dynamically change based on what we're filtering on here. So again, I'm going to go to my support sheet. So I need to create a sum of what's in here. So I need the month, and I want the sales. So I'm going to make this currency. I also want to get a dynamic label. So whenever I'm selecting the salesperson, so I'm going to do label, and that's going to be equals, I'm going to use the concat. Now my first piece of text is going to be the salesperson, which is L1 on the summary sheet. And I'm going to add text at the end of it, which is going to be space, hyphen, space, then sales. Close those quotation marks, close the bracket and hit return. So there I've got Andy there, sales, so that'll be dynamic. So as I change here to Bill, and that should go to Bill. Wonderful. So I now need to get a unique listing of my months here, and then I want to be able to do a SUMIF basically on this dynamic values here. So if I do equals unique, and I don't need to sort it because it's already sorted, and I need to, again, unique, the array is going to be here, just where it starts, but I need to do choose column first. So CHOOSECOLS, the array is going to be that hash, and the column that I want is going to be 1, 2, 3. Close the bracket on the CHOOSECOLS and then close the bracket on unique and hit return. So there are my unique values. Now with SUMIF, so if I do equal SUMIF, and let me show you the problem that we've got, the next problem we need to overcome. If I do SUMIF, so I want a SUMIF if this range here equals this, then sum the values in this column here, which is going to be the sales. Yeah. So the way that I do that, or you think you'd be able to do it, is do choose. Because if I do choose column here, if I do equals choose cols, yeah, and I choose that hash, then I'm going to get the months. I'm going to get the months here. If I do that, column 1, it's going to spell Bill. And if I want the months, 1, 2, 3, I get the months. Wonderful. So if I just delete that, and if I do, you think this would work then, wouldn't you? If I go equal SUMIF, the range and the criteria, so the range is going to be that CHOOSECOLS. And again, it's going to be that hash, and I want column 3, 1, 2, 3, where it equals this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do hash there because I want to include the whole range. And then as far as my sum range, it's going to be this column, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to choose cols again. E4 hash, that's column 7. Close that bracket and then close it on SUMIF, and there we go. It should be brilliant. But no, it's not. And the reason being is SUMIF or SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, etc., they can't handle arrays, and ultimately this choose column or this hash is an array and it can't handle it. So I need to partner SUMIF with something that can handle arrays. So if I just click OK and just do escape. So one of the things that does handle arrays is the index function. So if I do SUMIF, so my range area is going to be index. My array is going to be that hash. As far as the rows, I want all the rows, so I'm just going to put 0. As far as the column number, I want 1, 2, 3. So I want that column 3, like so. And if I do close bracket on the index, and the criteria is going to be that and hash. As far as my range is concerned, going to be index again. The array is going to be hash overspill. I want all the rows, so I'm going to put 0, and then I want column 7. Do 7. I then close the bracket on that. See what happens there. Boom. It works. So again, just thinking that through, I know that index can handle arrays. So by putting that index function and partnering up with the SUMIF function, then that index then turns that into a range. SUMIF can handle it. Right. So now I want to create a chart off this. So if I take this here and I do insert, and I'm going to do a line chart. I don't want that there. Don't want that axis label. So yeah, as far as the title is concerned, I'm going to go into the formula bar and do equals to this cell. So that then becomes dynamic. And then I'm going to add data labels like so. And now, so let's just test that. So if I go to my summary, let's change this to, let's change to Jane. Go onto the support sheet, and there we've got Jane. Let's try adding a month and hide. So let's add July. Go to my summary. So we've got July is there, wonderful. But July is not included on here. And the reason being is obviously now July here has now been added, but this is not a dynamic range. So we've got to make this work dynamically. So let me delete that. So the way that we're going to overcome that is create a dynamic spill range that includes both these columns of data. So I want month there, and I want sales. Let's make this a currency, like so. And I'm going to use the offset function. And so I'm going to do equals offset function. The reference is going to be this cell here. I'm going to do hash, so I've got the whole spill range. So it's dynamic. I don't need the row argument. I don't need the cons argument. I don't need the height argument, but I want the width because I want to include both of these. So I want from the offset, I want 1 and 2. So I'm going to do 2. That's the area that I want to include, the width. And if I close that bracket, wonderful. So I've now got these columns here. So let's call this chart data. I'm then going to select from here, from the month heading there, all the way to the bottom of that range, and I'm going to do insert. I'm going to do insert line with markers, like so again. Don't need that there. I'm going to make you a dynamic label. So in the formula bar, I'm just going to do equals this label here. Hit return. I'm going to add the data labels. So let's just do data labels, add them. They're actually too big here. So let's take this and let's change this to be in thousands. So I'm going to do, with that column selected, I'm going to do Control 1. And then I'm going to go to custom. I'm going to get rid of the decimal places. And then I'm going to put a comma. So 1 comma means divide the value as far as the formatting is concerned by thousands. And then I'm going to do open quotation marks, space, a small k, close quotation marks. And if I then do OK, there you go. And that's better. So let's make these bold. Let's make them that colour as well so they match everything. Right, so let's test if that works and becomes dynamic. So again, if I right click and hide, let's add August. I drag August into there, go to support sheet, and there you go, August is now included. Wonderful. So I'm going to take that, can do Control X, go to my summary, I'm just going to paste it there, and now everything is dynamic. And let's add September. So unhide September, drag that in, go to my summary, boom. Now what I want to do is add some formatting to our summary sheet here. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Column width, let's make you 10 as well, so we fit everything in there. Let's make you column width, let's make you 10 as well. Wonderful. Let's get some shading on these rows. So the mod function, so if I pick a row here, and if I do equals mod, so mod takes a number, and then by a divider, it then leaves you the remainder after it's divided that number by that divider. So if we take the row number, so if we use the row function as the number, so this will be row 2, and the divider is 2, I'll close that bracket, I get a 0. If I put it to an odd row, I then get 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, using that formula there. So if I just copy that and do a control copy and escape, and then I don't need those there, so let's just get rid of these. Applying that logic, let's take this here and let's do conditional formatting. So I'm going to do a new rule, and I'm going to use a formula. So basically, if A2, I'm going to make it relative, so it's always looking at the cell. So if I do if A2 does not equal blank, then I'm going to do another if statement. If mod 2 equals 1, that formula, then I'm going to do true, so do some formatting. Otherwise, false. Do nothing, can close that first if function off. Then I'm going to do a comma and do a false again, just to close off that first if function. Now, if this is true, basically, I'm just going to put a fill on the fill tab. I'm just going to use this light orange here and do OK. And I'm going to do OK again. You see now it's now highlighting those rows. So I'm just going to make sure now it picks up the whole range. So I'm going to do manage rules, and I'm just going to make this apply it to row 5000, like so, and hit return. So let me just add a little bit more formatting to this sheet to make it a little bit more presentable. And then if we do view, get rid of the grid lines, we've now got our sales information. So we've got our totals there, and I can look at different salespeople here. We can look at it like so. I can hide that. Let's move the summary to the start. And that looks fine to me. And let's shrink that down. There you go. Formatted. And again, now I can literally just again simulate adding more data. So if I add October, we move October in, go back to the summary, you can now see October information is in there, and it's been pulled through on the chart as well. And that chart again, just look at different people, and we can see it's all dynamic, and we can see all the data is being put through, and the conditional formatting is being applied dynamically, and that is all using formulas. So I hope you found that useful. If so, please click that like, subscribe, and smash that notifications button for future content. And as always, I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video from Change, Tips and Tools. Bye bye now.